Have you ever felt like you're spending hours studying, practicing, or learning something new, only to realize later that you haven't really retained much? You might see some progress initially, but then it plateaus and frustration sets in. It's like you're stuck in a loop, repeating the same actions without significant improvement. Many people experience this, and it's not necessarily a reflection of their intelligence or dedication. The culprit might be the learning method itself. In 1973, a groundbreaking study by William Batig at the University of California, Los Angeles, began to unravel this mystery. Batig, a pioneer in the field of cognitive psychology, was fascinated by how we learn and remember. His work challenged conventional wisdom about effective learning strategies. He discovered that the way we structure our practice sessions has a profound impact on our ability to truly master a skill or retain information. This research, along with subsequent studies, revealed a powerful technique known as interleaved practice, a method that consistently outperforms the more traditional approach of blocked practice. The findings were surprising, even counterintuitive. They showed that a bit of strategic confusion, strategically mixing things up during your practice, could lead to significantly better long-term learning. Let's think of it like this. Imagine you're learning to play 3 different chords on the guitar, let's say a minor, C major, and G major. The traditional blocked practice approach would be to practice the A minor chord repeatedly until you feel comfortable, then move on to C major, practice that for a while, and finally tackle G major. This method feels logical, right? You master one chord before moving on to the next, but this seemingly straightforward method might be holding you back. Now, let's imagine a different approach. Instead of focusing on one chord at a time, you mix them up from the very beginning. You play a minor, then C major, then G major, then maybe back to A minor, then G major again, and so on. You're constantly switching between the chords, even before you've mastered any of them. This is the essence of interleaved practice. You are interweaving different but related skills or concepts during your study sessions. It feels harder, more chaotic, and maybe even less productive in the moment. Your fingers might fumble more and your transitions between chords might be clumsy. You may experience a greater sense of effort and even frustration initially. But here's the fascinating part. Studies have shown time and time again that this messier approach, the interleaved practice, leads to significantly better long-term learning and retention. It might feel more challenging in the short term, but the payoff in the long run is undeniable. One study conducted at California Polytechnic State University by Dr. Doug Rohrer and Dr. Kelly Taylor, for instance, showed that students who learned math concepts through interleaved practice performed more than twice as well on a test a week later, compared to those who learned through blocked practice. Imagine doubling your learning efficiency by simply changing the way you structure your study sessions. So, why does this seemingly counterintuitive method work so well? The answer lies in the way our brains process and retain information. Blocked practice, focusing on one thing at a time, can create an illusion of mastery. You might feel like you're making rapid progress because you're quickly getting better at that one specific thing. But this improvement is often superficial and doesn't translate well to long-term retention or the ability to apply the skill in different contexts. It's like building a house on a weak foundation. It might look good at first, but it won't stand the test of time. Your ability to differentiate between skills or concepts is not effectively challenged. Interleaved practice, on the other hand, forces your brain to work harder. By constantly switching between different tasks, you're not just memorizing. You're actively engaging in the process of retrieving and reconstructing knowledge. It's like constantly taking your brain to the gym and giving it a full-body workout. Every time you switch from one concept to another, your brain has to actively distinguish between them. This process of differentiation strengthens the neural connections associated with each concept, making them more robust and easier to recall later. This cognitive effort, even though it feels more challenging initially, strengthens your mental representation of each concept, making it more durable and resilient to forgetting. Think of it like learning to distinguish between different types of trees. If you only study oak trees for weeks, you might become very good at recognizing an oak tree. But if you then encounter a maple tree, you might struggle to identify it, because you haven't learned to differentiate its features from those of an oak. Interleaved practice, where you learn about different types of trees concurrently, helps you to identify the specific characteristics of each type, leading to a deeper and more nuanced understanding of all of them. You develop a heightened awareness of the unique features of each type of tree, the shape of their leaves, the texture of their bark, and their overall silhouette. You become better at telling them apart because you have been forced to actively compare and contrast them from the beginning. This ability to transfer knowledge and skills to new situations is known as the transfer of learning phenomenon. Interleaved practice excels at facilitating this transfer. By learning in a mixed-up environment, you're training your brain to be adaptable and flexible. You're not just learning how to solve a specific problem, you're learning how to recognize patterns, make connections, and apply your knowledge in novel ways. This makes you more proficient at applying your knowledge in different settings. You become better at adapting your skills to new and unexpected situations. It's like having a versatile toolbox instead of just a single hammer. You're prepared for a wider range of challenges. This is true in sports too. For example, imagine a baseball player practicing their batting. Blocked practice would involve hitting only fastballs for an entire session, then only curveballs, then only change-ups. Interleaved practice, however, would mean facing a random mix of pitches throughout the session. The batter would have to constantly adjust their swing and anticipate the type of pitch, leading to a better overall hitting ability. They would learn to recognize the subtle cues that indicate what type of pitch is coming, improving their reaction time and accuracy. This ability to adapt to unpredictable situations is crucial for success in any sport. The batter becomes better at hitting in real game situations because they have learned to adapt to the unpredictable nature of a real game. They have learned to expect the unexpected, and they are prepared to respond accordingly. Another example can be found in music. Let's say you are learning to play the piano. Instead of practicing the same piece over and over again, an interleaved approach would involve practicing parts of different pieces, scales, and arpeggios in a single session. This forces your brain to actively engage with the different musical concepts and techniques, leading to a deeper understanding of music theory and a greater ability to improvise and adapt to different musical styles. You may even start to see common patterns and structures across the different pieces you are learning, enhancing your overall musicality. You become a more well-rounded musician, capable of playing a wider range of music. You're not just learning to play specific pieces, you are learning to understand the underlying principles of music itself. The same principle applies to academic subjects. If you're studying for a history exam, instead of reading one chapter from beginning to end and then moving on to the next, try mixing up the order. Read a section from one chapter, then a section from another, then maybe go back to the first chapter. You can even connect this to other areas. If you have to learn another subject, such as mathematics, study a couple of math problems, then a few sections of history, and go back and forth. This forces your brain to actively recall information and make connections between different historical events and periods, leading to a more profound and lasting understanding of the subject matter. You start to see the bigger picture, how different events are interconnected, and how they shaped the course of history. You develop a deeper appreciation for the complexities of the past. But how does this all work on a neurological level? While the exact mechanisms are still being researched, scientists believe that interleaved practice promotes a process called contextual interference. By constantly switching between tasks, you're creating interference that makes learning more effortful. This effortful processing, in turn, leads to stronger memory traces and better long-term retention. Your brain is actively engaged in the learning process, making connections, and building a more robust neural network. This is why you might feel like you are making mistakes when interleaving. But each mistake is an opportunity to learn and improve. Furthermore, interleaved practice seems to enhance the brain's ability to detect changes and adapt to new information. When you're constantly switching between different tasks, your brain is constantly being challenged to adjust its strategy and approach. This constant adaptation strengthens the neural pathways involved in learning and problem solving, It's like training your brain to be a quick change artist, able to seamlessly transition between different tasks and challenges. It promotes what is called metacognition, your awareness of your own thought processes. This enhances your ability to assess your understanding and adjust your learning strategies accordingly. Now, it's important to acknowledge that implementing interleaved practice can be challenging. It requires more effort and planning than simply studying one thing at a time. You'll need to be more organized and disciplined in your approach. You might need to create a study schedule that explicitly incorporates the mixing of different topics or skills. You will likely feel less confident in the short term, as the increased difficulty can make it seem like you are progressing more slowly. Remember, this initial feeling of difficulty is a sign that the learning process is working. It is important to trust the process, even when it feels uncomfortable. You might also encounter resistance from your own habits and preferences. We tend to gravitate towards what feels easy and comfortable, and blocked practice can often feel more satisfying in the short term because it creates that illusion of rapid progress. Be prepared to challenge your own assumptions about what constitutes effective learning. You might need to experiment with different ways of interleaving to find what works best for you. You will need to embrace the challenge and persevere through the initial period of discomfort. To overcome these challenges, start small. Begin by incorporating interleaved practice into a small portion of your study routine. Gradually increase the amount of interleaving as you become more comfortable with the method. Focus on a few key concepts or skills that you want to master. Don't try to interleave everything at once. Be patient and persistent. It takes time to adjust to a new way of learning. Track your progress and celebrate your successes. Notice how your long-term retention and understanding improve over time. Ultimately, learning how to learn is one of the most valuable skills you can acquire. By understanding and applying the principles of interleaved practice, you're not just learning more effectively, you're unlocking your potential for growth and mastery in any field you choose. You're empowering yourself to become a more adaptable, resilient, and insightful learner. You're taking control of your own learning journey and setting yourself up for success in the long run. Interleaved practice is not just a study technique. It is a powerful tool for personal and professional development. It is a way of thinking, a way of approaching challenges, and a way of maximizing your potential. So the next time you embark on a learning endeavor, remember the power of interleaved practice. Challenge yourself to step outside of your comfort zone and embrace the messy, but ultimately more rewarding path of mixing things up. The results might just surprise you. It's a journey of discovery, where you learn not just the what, but also the how of mastering any skill or subject. And that in itself is a lesson worth learning. You are not just acquiring knowledge, you are transforming the way you learn and grow. You are becoming a more effective, adaptable, and insightful learner, capable of achieving your goals and reaching your full potential. And that is a truly powerful thing. You may find that you are capable of learning much more than you ever thought possible.